6, 7, Calexico City Council, Calexico Redevelopment Successor Agency, Calexico Financing Authority, regular meeting, the closed session starting 6:07. The roll call?
Mayor Kim?
Yes?
Mayor Pro Tem Castro?
Here.
Councilmember Real?
Here.
Councilmember Moreno?
Here.
Councilmember Hurtado is absent, and we do have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. Public comment? If anybody to wish to talk with the public comment, I believe we don't have anybody submit the request. But not to exceed the 3 minutes, this is the time for the public to address the city council on closed session items only. The mayor will recognize you, and when you come to the microphone, please state your name and the place of residence for the record. While members of the public are encouraged to participate, it is unlawful to disturb or delay the council meeting with personal or slanderous remarks. The city council is prohibited by state law from taking action or discussing items not included on the printed agenda. Please direct your questions and comments to the city council. Urgent to the closed sessions. A closed session of the city council, Calexico Community Redevelopment Agency, Successor Agency, Calexico Financing Authority may be held in accordance with state law, which may include but is not limited to the following type of items: personal matters, labor negotiations, security matters, providing instructions to real property negotiators, and conference with legal counsel regarding pending litigations. The closed session will be held in the City Hall conference room located at 608 Hiva Avenue, Calexico, California. Any public comments on closed session item will be taken before the closed session. Any required announcement or discussion of closed session items or actions following the closed session will be made in the City Council chambers, 608 Hiva Avenue, Calexico, California. Closed session, number 1, public employees appointments, title, interim chief of the police, government code 54957B. Number 2, public employee performance evaluation, title, acting city manager, government code 54957B. I believe the city manager has something to pull out in that item.
Mayor, I would like to maybe entertain and make a motion to skip the closed session today because of the time. I don't know if anybody else feels that we should jump into maybe just a regular session.
Okay, Mr. Real.
Make a motion to that.
Second for discussion, I think it's very critical that we have a closed session and evaluate the city manager as we haven't done it in the past, so I disagree with, no, just kidding. Yeah, let's go ahead. Skip it.
Something wrong his lunch.
But we'd still have to wait till 6:30 to open.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would,
Motion to
second, aye.
motion skip by the Mr. Real, second by Mr. Moreno.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So we adjourn the meeting. for
You're
the
not
closed
getting
session.
fired today.
We adjourn the meeting for the city closed session. We're gonna come back to regular session 6:30. Thank you.
Got
We adjourn the meeting
Happy New Year.
at 6:11.
Happy New Year.
Okay. January 5th, 2016, the first meeting of Calexico City Council, Calexico Redevelopment Successor Agency, Calexico Financing Authority. Regular meeting will start 6:35. Call to order?
Mayor Kim?
Yes?
Mayor Pro Councilmember Real,
Here.
Councilmember Moreno,
Here.
Councilmember Hurtado is absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. The see, Mr. Jack, would you lead us the Pledge of Allegiance? It looks like we don't have a plan on the invocation and closed session announcement.
We had no closed session this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Hargrave. Before the approval agenda, Happy New Year, citizens of Calexico. It's Happy New Year, fellow council members. I wish we're gonna have a good year for everybody. We're gonna, whatever happens the last time, and we will get through together. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, we're recommending
Amen.
on the agenda to remove item 8. The employment agreement, we need to
Remove it? Okay.
bring that back at the next meeting.
So I'll make a motion to
Number
remove item 8.
So, second.
Aye.
Motion made by the Mr. Real and the second by the Mr.
Moreno?
Moreno.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Okay, now, announcement, this proceeding may be viewed on the City of Calexico website at www.calexico.ca.gov the Friday following the City Council meeting. The presentation, number 3, proclamation of mothers and men against the gang coalitions. I think we council members, we have some proclamation on the papers, on the page. I believe we have listed everybody's name. Anti-gang awareness day, January 6, 2016. Whereas the Mothers and Men Against Gangs Coalitions, MAC, is an organization formed to provide awareness to combat gang violation throughout the Imperial County. And
Whereas MAC was formed in 2013 by the parents of a young man who lost his life due to the gang violence. And
Whereas MAG brings together parents, youth, community, partners, and churches and educates to eradicate gang activity by spreading the message that there is no room for gangs. And
Whereas it is essential to continue to work together to stop gang violence and to encourage involvement in anti-gang prevention programs in order to help reduce the number of gang-related deaths. And whereas anti-gang prevention adds immeasurably to the health and safety of our community and should be encouraged and supported, and whereas the City Council urges our citizens to become aware of anti-gang prevention measures to safeguard our community.
now, therefore, be it resolved that the Calexico City Council does hereby proclaims January 6, 2016 as Anti-Gang Awareness Day in the city of Calexico, California. In witness whereof, I hereunto affix my signature and official seal of the city of Calexico on the 5th day of January 2016. June as Kim as Mayor. We have somebody came from the MAC. Okay.
I believe they sent a message that they would be they're running a little late, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So it looks like we have a number 4 presentation. she's not here today, or maybe late. We can come back to that. Okay, then, public comment and the public appearance. Note, not to exceed the 3 minutes. This is the time for the public to address the city council on any item not appearing on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city council. The mayor will recognize you, and when you come to the microphone, please state your name and the place of the residence for the record. While members of the public are encouraged to participate, it is unlawful to disturb or delay the council meeting with personal or slanderous remarks. If the item you wish to comment on is a closed session or consent item, please comment now. The City Council is prohibited by state law from taking action or discussing item not included on the printed agenda. If the item you wish to comment on is on the public portion of the agenda, we will take your comment when we get to the item on the agenda. Please direct your questions and the comments to the City Council. We have a person requested talk, Sandra Taul.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the council. I want to invite you to the grand opening of the Veterans Resource Center that we're opening at the library. It's on Tuesday of next week, January 12th. It's at 5 o'clock. We will be working to find veterans who are in need of information to improve their lives in the areas of employment, education, and health. So we're opening a center where you're going to be using volunteers to disseminate information, and you're cordially invited. I have already emailed you an invitation. I just wanted to remind you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I believe only one person wished to talk. Nobody didn't fill up the paper. So we're gonna go to the number.
Mr. Romo, you have a public comment?
Did we approve the agenda?
Well,
I think we didn't.
we didn't. We removed item 8.
But that's all, we haven't approved the agenda. I think we should approve it now.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Aye.
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 We just approved the agenda.
How come I don't see it?
We never found the clicker for the time.
Okay, Mr. Romo,
Can we order one?
you should talk.
Yeah. Que pido. Hay que pedir uno.
Aquí está trabajando, pero es aquel no.
No, but hay que pedir uno. Yes. Sure.
Good evening. My name is John Romo, and
Good evening, my name is John Romo.
my name is John Romo for the record, and good evening, members of the City Council and audience. I only have a concern for all the citizens of Calexico. On Cloak, as you come down from Highway 98, you pass Willie Moreno, and you approach, I believe it's, the next street over, heading towards Denny's. What's the street?
Cloak and Scaroni? Cole and Scaroni?
Yes. No, Cloak?
Cloak and Scaroni, and Cole.
Cloak,
Okay.
right. You make a right turn on,
Cloak.
on Cole.
On Cole.
Thank you very much. before you cross the railroad tracks, there is a divider,
A medium in the middle.
right? That divider does not have any signs. It's obscured, it's way in the dark.
Okay.
That I know of, there's 4 people that have not punctured, but, have gone over it.
Yeah, they puncture the tires and then they go to Mandy's Tires to fix them, so I know about that.
I don't know about that. Can't say about that. But anyway, I was wondering if it belongs to the railroad tracks, to the Southern Pacific County, or even the city. So that's a liability there. That's all I gotta say,
I believe that is in the city's
It
jurisdiction.
belongs to the county, but I'll get in touch with the county public works department.
Oh, well, okay, that works. Well, thank you.
Isn't that the city? It's not in the city.
Thank you, Mr. Lomo. And now we come to the council. Mr. Real?
Just something short. Just want to thank everybody for being here, and hope everybody had a good Christmas, New Year's. Hope everybody was with their loved ones, and for New Year's, I know we're all gonna join the gym and lose the weight we gained from all the food we ate. But just want to hope everybody had a good time, and God bless everybody. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Moreno?
Just wishing everybody a Happy New Year 2016, that it's much better than last year and we can move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moreno. Mr. Castro?
Well, the same. I wish you a Happy New Year to everybody. And I believe and I hope this is going to be a better year, 2016. And there's basically the way I see it, the majority of the council are working as a team. We are working together. And I believe this is going to be a great year for everybody. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Castro. And again, Happy New Year, Calexico. Happy New Year, citizens of Calexico. And Mr. Castro was mentioned again. So whatever pastor we had, but it's up to us to how make the great year this year. And we have a lot of things to work together to make the city Calexico make better. Thank you. Okay, we have a council comment on city manager's report. Mr. Finley?
Good evening, honorable council, members of the audience and staff. I just want to wish everybody a Happy New Year. Looking forward to a better 2016 than we had in 2015. So I look forward to serving you through 2016 in the coming future. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go to the agenda, I'd like to offer this moment of the silence where we have a commissioner, housing authority commissioner, Ricardo Lopez, passed away 31st of December. So would you let us have a little respect and the silence of the moments?
1st of December or January?
December.
Oh, December 31st. Okay, sorry.
January. It's December. Thank you. Mr. Ricardo was serving, I believe, almost 3 years in the Commissioner's Housing Authority, and he served our community. I believe we like to wish and the new place to make him better and rid of all the suffering. He will have another life with the God. Thank you. Okay, we have.
Since you mentioned Mr. Ricardo, can I say something real quickly?
I think, yeah, but this comment time, we already have public comment times. So you can come to talking next meeting. I'm planning to have give them recognition on him. Thank you. Okay, number 5, consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are to be considered routine by the City Council, Calexico Community Redevelopment Agency, successor agency, or Calexico Financing Authority, and will be enacted by one motion in the form listed. Any item may be removed from the consent calendar and considered separate by the City Council. Is any council member wish to separate to discuss? So if none of the council member wants to discuss
Make
separately,
a motion to approve.
motion made by Mr. Real,
Second.
second by Mr. Moreno.
Aye.
Time to vote.
Aye.
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 4-0. It's unanimous. Number 5, 6 and approved. Item, okay, the discussion and the potential action items. 7, update on fiscal year 2014-2015 financial. So, City Manager?
Honorable Council, members of the audience, I'd like to introduce Ms. Susan Meyer. Ms. Meyer is a financial consultant with the City of Calexico, and she'll be giving the presentation on our updated financial for 2014-15.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Susan Mayer, and I'm here to give you a report on the status of your general fund. But before I do that, I just wanted to explain who I am and why I'm here and what my connection is with the city. I'm a retired finance director. I've worked in municipal finance for over 30 years. I have worked for 4 cities in Northern California, and since my retirement, I have consulted with a series of cities. I've been an interim finance director, and I do other project work, including support for your city. I am here as a peer advisor. I provide peer and technical support to your finance staff. I've been here since July, on occasional days. I've been here about 50 days total. I was actually brought in to help close out your last year's financial statements, the 2014 financial statements. And then I was also asked to help with some other issues in your finance department. I was referred to the city by your auditors. Ken Poon is a professional colleague of mine that I've worked on some CPA committees with over the years. And so he's the one that brought me to you. And I am here again to support your finance staff. I answer questions and provide guidance and help move the process forward with the closing of your books. And so here we are, the 1st of January, and I'm here to report on the status of your general fund for the 14-15 fiscal year. So it's the 1st of January, and we're just now getting to you with some information about the fiscal year. I'm going to go through the bullet points on where you are, and then I'm going to hold my comments and come back to some general observations about your accounting processes and the opportunities you have to make improvements going forward. But first, let's just focus on the numbers. 2015 was a challenging year. The expenditures exceeded the revenues. There was a deficit, and there are some challenges. But before we talk about what happened in the year, I'd first like to start out where you started the year to make sure we're all on the same page. And so with that, let's look at the first slide I have here. I wanted to just brief you about what the auditors reported to you when they brought the last year's financial statements. The city operates a general fund where it brings in its unrestricted dollars, its general tax dollars. It also has a Measure H operating fund where it brings in your dedicated sales tax, Measure H. And there's also a contingency reserve fund. In addition, there are half dozen or so program funds, small funds with particular restricted monies for your library, your senior center, your recreation programs. And all of these together have been commingled as a single reported entity, general fund, in your financial statements. So the reason I wanted to highlight the scope is that your financial statements reported that at the beginning of this year, you had just under $4 million, $3.8 million of the beginning fund balance. But as we look through your budget and your general ledger, it's apparent that often the documents are inconsistent about the scope of these transactions. You have a Measure H oversight committee, a citizens committee, that is charged with tracking and monitoring the use of your Measure H. Yet some of the documents, including the budget, sometimes put that revenue in the general fund and sometimes report it separately. And so as a result, over time, I think people have gotten confused, perhaps confused about which dollars are which. So when we talk about the beginning fund balance of $3.8 million, I just wanted to clarify that includes not only your general fund, but it includes your Measure H beginning balance and the contingency reserve fund. And so the general fund started the year with $1.7 million. The Measure H and contingency reserve was $2 million. And there were some small balances in the program funds. Now, we've already identified almost $700,000 of corrections to that number. And as a result, we're recommending those numbers be restated and increased to $4.5 million. The largest item represented administrative fees from the successor agency that have accumulated over time but had never been moved to the city's general fund. So for a variety of reasons, a number of missed revenue accruals and other corrections, we're actually going to be bringing that number up, which is good news, to $4.5 million. But just to dwell 1 minute longer, I wanted to clarify my understanding is that there's a perception that the city has a contingency reserve of $1 million. I wanted to clarify, as the 14-15 budget was adopted, that money was labeled as Measure H money in your budget document, and it was budgeted into CIP projects. So by implementing the 14-15 budget, the Measure H funds and combined with the contingency reserve fund were appropriated to projects and substantially spent during the year. So that was my, I just wanted to clarify that 3.8 represents the total of all these unrestricted resources. So let's talk about really the unfortunate situation we are in with the 14-15 results. If we could go to the next slide, please. The activity. Revenues did not cover the expenditures for the year, and there's actually a fairly dramatic loss in the general fund for the net annual activity of over $5 million. Expenditures exceeded revenues by over $5 million. And there's two reasons for this. As the budget was adopted, the revenue budget assumed $17 million, and the expenditure budget was $17 million. And I'm talking about just the general fund in isolation. So there was a balanced budget at the beginning of the year. However, the general fund revenue budget double counted and duplicated the Measure H revenues. Measure H revenues, these are the tax receipts you get from your supplemental sales tax, were counted both as a general fund source and as a separate Measure H operating fund source. As a result, we were off by $3 million on the revenue. When you look at the revenues, excluding the Measure H and the general fund, you exceeded your target. You met your targeted goals. I mean, there were some ups and some downs, but in total, your revenue was as planned. The problem was the duplicated revenue assumption. Huge hit, $3 million. It included not only the current revenue, but also the beginning balance of the Measure H, double counted. On the expenditure side, I would say the primary driver of the expenditures, and the expenditures were over $2 million overspent as well. The primary driver of that was the investigation in your police department and the significant costs incurred with that. But there were other issues as well in terms of the overspending. And I have another slide that will go into detail on that a bit more. But before we leave this slide, I'd also like to comment on the Measure H fund. The Measure H fund had budgeted and planned to draw down its beginning fund balance through CIP projects. There were a number of projects in the community services area. And so you see a deficit in that Measure H column, but that was actually planned. The project that didn't happen there, $1 million of that of the Measure H fund had been set aside for the swimming pool project, and that has not yet happened. So there is a cash balance that remains in the Measure H fund. Not all the projects were implemented. And so across all of these funds, the city drew down $6 million more than it received in the scope of general fund funds. If we could go to the next slide.
Are we allowed to ask questions now, or should we wait till the end of the?
I'm sorry, I couldn't.
Wait till the end. Wait till the end.
What's your pleasure?
I'll wait. I'll
Thank
wait.
If I were in your situation and hearing this news, I would ask 3 questions. Is this an ongoing trend? Is this a one-time problem? Or is it something we're going to have to deal with in the future? How are we going to cover these funds? And finally, what can we do to be sure that we know about this as it's happening and not 6 months after the end of the year? So let's start by looking at the expenditures and where they were and how they happened. And I've got a slide here that shows you the results by department. In your handout, we also included a more detailed schedule that was too long to put on the PowerPoint. But this gives you a high level that shows you by department which departments fared better or worse than budget. I probably neglected to say as I started my presentation that these are preliminary numbers. They are still fluid, and we are still working with the departments to identify updates and corrections to continue to build quality into these numbers. These are not final numbers. And I'll show you the police department as an example. The slide shows that the police department is almost $1 million over budget, yet the lieutenant in the police department, Lieutenant Serrano, has been working closely with the finance staff to identify police grants that might be further drawn and to reimburse the general fund. And so we think that this number will improve. Some additional grant reimbursements have been identified. And so this is an example of collaborative work with the departments to make sure that we are getting the right bottom line. So the police department is currently over budget, but we expect that number to improve now that we've identified some additional grant receipts that can improve this number. I also want to mention the administration line, which appears to be significantly over budget, and I wanted to let you know that that has a placeholder for a number of costs that are waiting to be allocated. One of the concerns of the past accounting practices is that some large expenditures for your insurance programs, workers' comp, general liability, health insurance, have been charged as they've been paid to holding accounts, and they haven't been allocated until year end. There are other costs in the same situation. There's what was called a support allocation fund, where portions of employee salaries and benefits were held pending allocation to other funds and accounts. And so we know these costs still need to be allocated, and we have put them here to make sure we could give you a good bottom line. But we don't expect that administrative line to be this significantly over budget when we are done with the allocations. In addition, there's an opportunity to do some cost allocation of administrative overhead to other funds and departments that will also improve that line. So again, we're here to give you the best available information, especially given the severity of these numbers, but I don't want to imply that these are final, and staff is still working hard to identify areas that we can improve and refine these numbers. So here we have $2.5 million of expenditures that exceeded budget. On the more detailed schedule that we included in your paper copy, we broke out each of these departments between labor and the materials and operating costs. And in total, actually the labor, the salaries and benefits were very close to budget. It was the non-salary lines that were the particular issues that were over budget. If we could go to the next slide, please. So where does that leave us? We started the year in the general fund with almost $2.5 million positive, and that's after the restatements we're proposing. We're drawing down 5 million, and as a result, the general fund is overdrawn. Not quite 3 million, but pretty darn close to 3 million. There is a fund balance in the Measure H fund. Those funds are monitored, and recommendations on their spending are provided to you from the Oversight Committee, but they are unrestricted monies. Of that ending balance, $1 million has been set aside for the swimming pool project, and the other balance also represents the unexpended portion of monies that had been set aside for CIP projects that are still in progress. So in total, when you add together both of these unrestricted resources, the total is still overdrawn by 1.5, almost 1.6 million. So where does that leave us, and what are the next steps? Where do we go from here? As I had indicated before, we know that there are some eligible police grants that we can still allocate to that will improve this. And we thank the police staff for working with the finance department to identify those opportunities. There's an opportunity to allocate administrative costs to the other funds and programs. In fact, the spending plan that had been presented to you in June made such an assumption for the 15-16 year that didn't appear to be in the 14-15 budget, but it is a standard business practice, and we recommend that you consider that as one of your options to resolve this deficit. And as an example, the finance staff provides finance services for all the funds of the city. They pay employees citywide. And so it is appropriate, for example, to allocate payroll costs, accounts payable costs, and other administrative costs. The same for the city clerk, the city manager, and the city attorney. It's appropriate for all programs of the city to share the burden of the overhead. And so we will be looking at and refining a cost allocation proposal that will improve this bottom line. There's also a question about the strategy of how you use your Measure H bond proceeds. You have monies set aside for the swimming pool and for a fire station and perhaps some others. Those are the largest items. There might be an opportunity to draw some of those funds to cover your current capital spending that's already happened and to use future Measure H monies to restore those projects. And again, we're just at the brainstorming point here to start to think about ways in which you might restore your bottom line to a positive balance. There are also some risks. The accounting processes are not done. The bank reconciliations are close, but they're not done, so they still represent a risk. And I do want to say that the bank recs for the year didn't start until October. In less than 3 months, your staff and your finance department has assembled 3 people that are focused exclusively on bank reconciliations. And this is such a positive step of financial health to take care of the basic business and the accounting records of the city. And so they have been going month by month, bank account by bank account, but there's still risk because they're not quite done yet. Finally, I don't want to neglect the housing grants and the risk that they represent to you. Some of your grant funds have been frozen pending some additional audit and compliance work that is being done. And so you have staff costs and program costs that right now don't have a funding source. And as all that is sorted out, there may be a situation where the general fund needs to cover on a temporary or on a permanent basis some of those deficits. So we don't have the whole picture yet, but this is the best available information, still fluid, but the best information that we have to present to you tonight. And with that, actually, before I go on, I want to make a few more comments about your accounting records. And I work with a lot of different cities. I actually was an auditor early in my career and tested a lot of different records. And I have to say that, compared to other cities, your accounting records have suffered from neglect. And not just in this fiscal year, but it's been several years, really. And although you had an audit issued last year, we were still finding corrections that really relate to 2014. It's important for us to identify those and push those back to the prior year so that you have a good record for 14-15 that you can use as a basis to project the future. And so your accounting records have had neglect. There have not been timely bank reconciliations. There have been a number of transactions that have simply been unrecorded during the year. You bring in a lot of money in through electronic means. People are going increasingly to electronic banking. They pay utility bills in a half a dozen different ways. And what we found is that not all these revenues were being timely captured and recorded. The same was true on the disbursements. Wires going out for debt service and other activities weren't necessarily being recorded on a timely basis. There was an accountant who left the city during the year, and some of the activities weren't picked up and carried forward. There simply hasn't been the allocation of sufficient hands-on, detailed frontline staff handling the accounting transactions. But I'm very pleased to tell you that you have a good staff right now who put their heads down and work and are doing their best to try to catch up these records. But frankly, this didn't start until October. And so in the last 3 months, they've tried to accomplish a year's worth of accounting. So as frustrating as it may be that these records are not yet done, I just need to tell you that it's getting better every day. The records are getting stronger. We still have a long way to go, but I think the general fund is getting close. We now need to turn to the other funds of the city, the utility funds, and there's, 30 or 40 different program funds. So this will take some time, but we're making good progress. I'd be happy to take any questions that you have.
Mr. Rea?
Sure, why not? I have many questions, but I would probably be here all night. I guess what's going through my head is when you say neglect, I guess I'm trying to wrap my head around how we got here. Because as a council member, we are responsible to our constituents and to the taxpayers of the city. And you saying that we're, $6 million overspent. And I'm just trying to think, how does that happen when the council has to approve everything over $50,000 in the past and now $10,000? And how did the past administration, how did they spend $6 million without the council approving these things? How did they get us in this position, first of all? And the neglect, in your professional opinion, I guess, how long has it been going on? I just heard you at the end. One of the questions I had is are we good now with the staff? Are they competent enough to get us to where we need to be? I guess I'll start off with that there. How were these monies, I think police investigation and Measure H, which I know some of the council members have been saying that was circumvented, it should have gone through the board first in other words, they're allocated, I know they go to general fund, but realistically, they should go through the board for approval and through the city council. How did all this get through without being voted on by the council? And is that not something that could be, criminal for people spending taxpayer money without actually going through the proper channels through the council?
I wasn't here.
I know.
And so it's not appropriate, perhaps, for me to comment on what or was not done. I think that the biggest problem was that the Measure H revenues appear to have been double counted. So that's not a case of someone spending something that wasn't budgeted, because it was budgeted. The problem is that the expenditures were budgeted twice. So that's half your problem, right? That's more than half the problem. It was just a miscalculation on the revenues.
Now, have you actually seen the proposed budget that the past administration wanted the council to approve?
So my focus has been on 14-15. I have not spent a lot of time on 15-16. I believe you have an ongoing problem in 15-16, but not to the same degree.
My question is that, in other words, the past administration has shown the council a budget that seems, if you see the budget, everything's fine. Actually, revenues and expenditures were down to the dollar, according to the past budgets that we've had. But in your expert opinion, that's not the case at all, correct?
I can't comment on the 15-16 budget because I just haven't spent
No, I'm
enough
saying,
time.
well, even the past budget, was it 14,
And again,
15
I
was?
haven't spent a lot of time looking at the budget document or how it was compared. I don't know what assumptions were used. I just don't know. What I can tell you is that about the actual revenues and expenditures that have been recorded and that we're working with right now. I would say that the biggest opportunity you have to improve your budget monitoring going forward is to have your budget loaded into your financial system. In 14-15, the budget was never loaded into the financial system. And so going forward, again, I'd like to just focus on the opportunity. If you have a good system, you bought a good system. Springbrook is your new financial system is a good system. I've used it with other cities. It has good potential, but you have to get the data into it. And the 14-15 budget was not loaded into a financial system. It only exists in the book. And so it's not possible for your managers, your airport manager, your police chief, your library person to get a report that shows, here's my spending, here's my budget, and here's my year-to-date. The best tool you have to monitor your budget is monthly reports to the people who are actually controlling the expenditures.
My understanding, I know we have some department heads here, and my understanding is prior to the last administration, everybody did have access to the MOMS system to know where they were at, and somehow, I guess, this past administration, 14-15, didn't think that was good and took all that away from them, which I personally thought was kind of awkward, because you have to know how much money you have in your wallet to go spend, and having your department heads blind is definitely not a good thing. But one other question here, 14-15, that's the year that $6 million were overspent, correct?
I'd like to clarify that the expenditures exceeded revenues by that amount.
By six,
Didn't
okay.
exceed budget by that amount, it exceeded the revenues.
The revenues, okay. And I believe 13-14, last time you said was 3 million? So in the last 2 years, I'm sorry, in 13-14, 14-15, it's safe to say the city spent $9 million overspent, pretty much. Is that safe to say?
I can't speak to the prior years, but in the current year, the expenditures exceeded the revenues by
Okay.
the amount you've quoted, yes.
Okay. Well, thank you.
I have a couple of questions. Thank you very much for this presentation, number one. Noticing here the ending balance, the number in parentheses at the bottom right is $1.5 million. That reflects, well, how does that relate to the 6 million right above it? This is taking into account those three areas, right?
It's a very good question. And so on this slide, the top line represents July 1st, 2014, where we were the day the fiscal year started. We started the year, again, combining both the general fund and the Measure H with 4.5 million. During the year, we drew down 6 million, spent 6 million more than we took in. And so as a result, the way the ledger slide right now, we're overspent by 1.5 million. And again, that's before we implement some solutions that we'll talk about and discuss. But right now, we're overspent. We've overdrawn by 1.5.
By 1.5 million?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so the 6 million, subtracted from the 4.5 would give us a 1.5 shortfall.
We started, correct.
Okay.
We
I just
started
want to
with-
make sure the shortfall isn't $6 million.
That's in the red.
That was the annual amount.
Okay,
During the year, we worsened our position by 6 million.
okay. But we're in the red at 1.5.
Correct.
Okay. In your opinion, what would it take, or what kind of timeline are we looking at to input the data that's not in the Springbrook program? You mentioned that a lot of data has not been inputted. What does the city need to do to make sure that that is taken care of?
I think you're referring to my comment about loading a budget. The best tool you have to monitor your budget is to load the budget.
Right.
So that you can use technology, right? Technology. That's why you bought this system. It's a
Right.
very good system. It hasn't been fully set up.
Okay. So what do you think, how could we how long is it going to take for us to set it up?
Well, the first thing we have to do is adopt a 15-16 budget.
That was my next question. Okay. Okay.
And so to catch up, my recommendation to you will be to address both 15-16 and 16-17 at the same time.
Okay.
So we can do one touch with the departments to get their input update their 15-16 projections. At the same time, they're touching those accounts. Let's just do 16-17 at the same time. And so that by the time you're ready to adopt it, it's time to start the 16-17 budget anyway. So my recommendation is that you have a 2-year look.
Okay.
So we're only a
And
year
so-
behind.
And so the 1.5 shortfall will tell city administration that there needs to be some cuts in certain departments. True or not true?
True.
And so the priorities have to be set, and,
Perhaps I misspoke. I'm sorry, I need to backtrack.
okay,
I think the objective is to have a balanced budget, to live within your means,
okay,
to build and establish reserves, especially given your new situation where you are self-insured for part of your workers' comp and your general liability. For a city of your size to be self-insured, it's prudent to have reserves, and your actuaries have recommended reserves, but you have an additional level of risk now. So maybe it doesn't happen overnight, but maybe over a 5-year period, you identify what you as an organization want to have as a contingency. It's often measured in terms of percentage of your budget. Maybe you start with 5 or 10% of your budget, and you build up over time. You don't want to have to do it overnight. You don't want to make dramatic changes in your operations. But I think it is prudent to build and establish and maintain a rainy day fund. It's raining today.
right, yes. Would it be suffice to say that perhaps we may be looking at using reserves to offset this shortfall at this time?
I wish that was possible, but the 1.5 shows that you have not only used up all your reserves, you've overspent the reserves. There are no reserves left.
Okay. So that's out of the question.
Which is a very unfortunate situation to be. And that's why we're going to propose some solutions for your consideration that will allow you to bring that back up. Before you
Right.
close the books, before you bring your auditor in, we'd like to see that be a positive number.
What, I doubt that we can move or borrow amongst our enterprise or other funds that are restricted and then pay them back, or is that another possibility, perhaps?
From an accounting point of view, the accounting standards require that you have the ability to repay. If you're going to have a long-term borrowing from another fund, there needs to be an ability to repay. There's also a California constitutional requirement, right, that debt is voter approved, right? And so there are some reasons why we're going to encourage you and give you options to bring that back to zero before you close the books. It may require you to change your capital funding plan in the future, and as you say, perhaps adjust your operations with the objective of not only breaking even for each year, but also building a reserve over time.
I have no further questions, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Castro?
Yes, I have a question. You mentioned that, I believe Mr. Moreno mentioned about, I thought, no, you said we need to use, in order to fix the majority of the problem with the budget, we need to update the programs. You mentioned technology. That's what you mentioned, right? That's part of to benefit, to look for being compliant with the budget and also take care of the monthly reports with every department. That's what you mentioned. My question is, I believe we have the old system, I believe is the MAM system, and the other Brooks, what? Spring? Brooks, okay. My question to you, our city personnel in finance, are capable to understand both programs in order to then to understand what happened? Because when you talk about 6 million deficit, in what I understand, this is not happened yesterday. I mean, it's been like that for what I understand more than 3 years.
because you also mentioned you was here in July last year, right? For 15 days?
I was
For
here,
2 weeks?
I started 6 months ago.
6 months ago?
Yes.
Okay, so again, the personnel are capable to understand what's going on, or you arrived to work with the city of Calexico, and either you teach them, or either you get the information from them, or what exactly you are helping us to solve the problem? That's my question.
I think, I don't know if I'm right, but are you trying to say if I think that if our staff is capable to do it?
Yes.
Okay. I think we're trying to say, is the staff capable of doing this? And I have one thing to add also, the Springbrook system. I have called other cities and asked, and they say it takes months, maybe 3 to 6 months to go ahead and install that system in the city. How has the city of Calexico had it for over 2 years, and we still can't seem to get that system going? I mean, how did that happen?
The conversion, in my opinion, was handled backwards. Insufficient resources were dedicated to it. The staff was insufficiently trained. The process was backwards. To this day, the chart of accounts is not complete. The chart of accounts is what you normally start with to establish the pattern. But the success was that the accounts payable and the payroll systems were turned on. The receivable system was turned on later in July, but there was problems there too, because you actually have a third system called Starnic, and there needed to be custom interfaces that weren't built when they turned on the cash receipt system. I'm sorry to muddle through this, but my comment to you is that the implementation was insufficiently staffed, insufficiently planned. It was done backwards.
And I think that his question was, is the staff we have now capable of getting this done?
The finance department staff is almost entirely turned over in the last 3 months. I don't think any of them have had Springbrook training. The people that were involved in the implementation have all moved on. I think there's one person left who had training on Springbrook. We need to bring the vendor back to train the staff so they can operate it.
Because the only 2 people trained, one left and the other one was let go. So
I don't know the circumstances. I think some have been reassigned to other departments as well. The people who knew the system best are no longer, actually 2 have been reassigned to other departments. The people that you have in-house right now are most proficient in the old MOM system, and there's an opportunity to increase proficiency in the new system. And this will happen over time. It's a good system. It just needs to be finished.
I know we're open for a finance director. Hopefully we find one that knows the MOM system. I mean, the Springbrook system.
We will be training staff within the next couple of weeks. We already contacted the vendor, so we'll be having some training for the staff that'll bring them up to date on the Springbrook system.
That was my question.
We can hopefully make sure that staff stays in the.
Thank you.
Don't ask him too much now, Mr.
Good evening, council members. About the question of Mr. Castro or Mr. Reali, if the staff is competent to perform duties on the new software, put it this way. Our staff has 3 months exposed to the new software. In 3 months, the humble page you see there, it requires thousands of hours to come up with these numbers. Yes, still have work to do and learning more tricks from the software. But right now, running the day-to-day operations of the city, they are capable to do it. We need more training, yes, because we were exposed to the training 2 years ago when this software started. But right now, the staff you have in finance department is capable to run it.
I have a question for.
The only thing, Mr. Real, is just it takes a normal time or hours to figure it out what happened. That's where we get stuck.
So right now, okay, so put this in a nutshell, we're 6 million overspent. Now, when will we know exactly what we overspent? I mean, what monies were misspent that were at that level, at $6 million? Do you have any idea exactly? When you do a budget, obviously you show where you're going to spend the money in that budget. And so I guess what I'm asking is, where did those $6 million go? That weren't on the budget.
Let me go back to the wording.
Okay.
Yeah. In terms of overspending versus authorized appropriations, you have a chart by department. Can you go back to the prior slide? Yeah, here it is. The spending that exceeded the budget was 2.5. When we talk about a $6 million gap, the revenues were short of expenditures by $6 million. However, half of that problem was because revenues were double counted. The actual overspending was between 2 and 3 million. And we can show you here by department, and the number one driver of that number is the police investigation.
Do we know how much was overspent in the investigation, as far as the investigation?
I don't have a number.
Okay. So the police overspent was,
I would say the second largest driver of that number for overspending was the insurances.
so about $1 million in the police department. Community service.
Does this answer your question, this slide?
Okay, so Mr. Leal,
Go ahead.
Mr. Castro is done?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay. First of all, I have some, during your presentation, you said that we sent some money transfer to some other place, and then you stopped it to bring back the money back?
I'm sorry, I can't hear the question. There were banking transactions that happened that just were delayed in getting recorded into the financial system. So for example, perhaps this was your question, I mentioned that there were cash receipts coming into the city, and there were wire and electronic transfers leaving the city, and they weren't being recorded on a timely basis. So it made monitoring the budget impossible, right, until all those transactions are recorded.
So then the money comes in, we didn't record in the system, so we didn't know how much we have.
Yes, and so I'm not implying that anything went out that wasn't known or reported. I'm just saying that it wasn't timely recorded. And so the best tool going forward, monthly bank reconciliations, to be sure that's your assurance that everything is recorded so that you know that you're evaluating the right budget amounts, and then to have a budget loaded into the system with monthly reporting back to the people managing the departments so that they can identify any errors or inconsistencies and know what they have going forward.
You said the major region is police department investigation, but you don't have a number yet on 2014-15 and 2015-16. You don't have anything number yet together. And for example, same page you're showing the department expenditure. I only see the $2.5 million to overspending, not the $6 million.
And so let's clarify. Can we go back, Eduardo, to the slide that shows here? This is a slide that shows the gap between revenues and expenditures combined with the Measure H. The city brought in 17 million of discretionary money.
Yes.
It spent 23 million.
Okay.
And so as a result, we had an operating deficit. This isn't compared to budget. This is just compared to real money in versus real money out. $6 million gap.
Yes, but the next page you show me only $2.5 million overspended.
The second page is 2.5 million overspent versus budget. The other difference is on the revenue side.
The revenue, 17 million is already, it's actual numbers, right? It's not projected.
On the prior page, it is actual, the actual,
Actual.
well, it's a projection, yes.
Okay.
I don't believe there are many open items on the revenue side. It's the expenditure side that we're still working with the department side.
So our revenue only $14 million on general fund.
And that's right, because the adopted revenue budget was $17 million. However, it double counted the Measure H revenues. And so we lost $3 million because the Measure H money was counted twice.
Okay, okay, now I'm understanding, because our budget, second page, our budget was mentioning $17 million, but actually our revenue only $14 million instead of $17 million.
Exactly.
So that's why they have about $6 million overspending. And we were lucky because we had about $4.5 million money was there.
Yes.
But we're not lucky because we're not going to know the 4.5 million is still the positive or not. Because according to the book system about 13-14, we already had $3.7 million.
Yes.
And when I was arguing with the money expenditure would never been reported, and my fellow council member tried to pull me out from the chamber, called the police. That's what they did. That now we pay for the $3.7 million for that. This Mr. Leal was saying something, the due diligence to our duty, but our fellow council members didn't do their job due duty. That's why happening in this. And besides that, they're keep supporting the bad habit, causing another $60 million more. That's we have to say, council self, we have to have to shame ourselves. We sitting down here. Where is for the community? Where is due diligence to the community? We let it happen. Open the eyes. We just sitting up here nicely, and we let them screw to our cities. Sorry my language, but I can't say more nice language on this. I've been 2 years. I've been trying to pull them out by the fellow council member to call the police and remove them from the chamber because I was making the money.
Mr. Kim, let's just stick to the.
Okay, thank you.
She doesn't hear all that.
Okay.
I think,
Now, my point is, we learned that the city council member have to do their job right.
I think, I want to add you, I think the main word to use here is neglect. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you say that in the finance department in the city, there's neglect to blame from this. And I think that as a council member, I think the council also neglected on asking, when I got on council, I was asking for financials, and there was no financials given to the council for a year prior to that. And then, and I gotta say, first 6 months I was on council, I guess I want to say I trusted the finance director and the city manager that were there. I would go in, we would ask for financials, and don't worry, everything's fine. One of the things that Mr. Kim said right now was the 13-14 budget, which I didn't vote for because I wasn't on council yet, but you guys voted for. It used $17 million as our as our revenues. And it's funny because this 15-16 budget that they proposed had the same revenues. So they wanted us to approve a 15-16 budget based on projections of a 14-15 budget and so on. And so they were trying to, in reality, I think we're a $14 million city. We're not a $17 million city. And I think they were trying to continue that trend. And I'm just glad we caught it on time. I think if this would have gone on for another year, we just would have been in a real bad place. Thank you for your help. And I think you guys are doing a great job. And like I said, to the citizens of Calexico, I just like to say that I'm sorry it took us this long to I guess, do something about it, but there's no sense in crying over spilled milk. It looks like we have good people there. It looks like you guys are going to get a hold of this, and I hope that in this 2016, the city of Calexico gets out of this hole it's in. And all together, we gotta do this as a city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Real. I wasn't finished yet.
Actually, I'm just joking.
The same page on the police departments, we have, everybody knows we have fired the 7 of the officers. So we only have 18, I believe, in the officers in patrol.
I think that's a
How many we have on 18? 16. So from the 32 budget, 16, just half of them. So we supposed to save a lot of money. Instead of the $7.2 million, we supposed to spend probably about $4 or $5 million. And we spend $8 million. So it's not only $1 million. The way I see it, so much money, we spend money on the investigation. We supposed to have less officers. We supposed to not pay them. So we save a lot of money from the salaries. What is the savings? Instead of savings, we spend $1 million more. Well, I don't want to get more mad on this. And so our spending habit is just like we open the eyes, we give them the blank check. That's what happens here. And the other one is, I'd like to recommend to not only for the training for the Spring Book system, I'm recommend to every department who is engaging accounting should be training to using the Spring Book system, plus department head. And I'd like to be there. And again, we don't know how much we spend money yet. I was worried about the 15-16 because the last, but July, August, September, we're spending a lot of money. Spending with so much money, we spend it. Right now, we're covering up for how much we spend it, but I don't know how much we're going to be another deficit. Because I believe we didn't put all the number yet on the 15-16. And we just have a final bill to receive it, so we're going to know the more numbers, how much we spend it on the investigation, and plus a lot of areas. And unlikely, when I see the community service, we spend less. Community service, we budgeted $1.1 million. We spend about $250,000 less on the community service. So we did equal to the community. We squeezed the money not to serve the community, and we're spending money for the investigation. That's what he did.
I think we should move on,
Okay.
Mr. Kim, unless
Yes,
there's
I
any
do.
further questions, rather than listen to your editorial.
Well, because you guys not listen to me, that we have
Well,
over
we've
$10
heard it.
million.
You've made your point over and over again.
Yes.
It's redundant.
Okay, because you guys never listens it.
Okay, so we're listening now.
Okay, and unfortunately, the last time we had a couple months ago, council approved it forensic audit that caused somebody retires. So that there's some kind of a shady financial empire shrinking down and then just showing real numbers to us. Please, my fellow council member, work with the administration and staff to try to fix together to return to our great city again. Thank you. Mr. Real, please sit in. I know you don't want to hear it, but please say it. Okay, I believe Mr. Right now we have, we go back to the presentations. I believe there's some papers here. Where's my paper?
We've already read the proclamation.
So presentation number 4.
Okay. Does somebody do the? Okay. You really did read the proclamation already?
Yes.
We had 2 council meetings today.
Go ahead, please. Presentation number 4. After we finish the presentation, we're gonna pass the proclamation for you guys.
Thank you. We want to make sure we document that for our organization. While he's looking, I just want to take time to thank City Council of Calexico for giving us this time to give you a presentation, an overview of who we are as Mothers and Men Against Gangs Coalition. My name is Yulila Alonso Garza. I am the president and founder of this organization, and this is my husband. I'll have him.
How do you do? My name is Martin Garza.
And the reason that we are here today is not only to ask the council to proclaim January 6, 2016, the Anti-Gang Awareness Day, but to also inform them and give them insight as to what work we have been doing around the county. 3 years ago, our son, Martin Alberto Garza, was murdered in El Centro, and tomorrow will be his 3-year death anniversary, and we have decided to be proactive in our community as a result of his death, and created and founded this organization called Mothers and Men Against Gangs Coalition to prevent our youth from getting involved in gang activity. We have several activities throughout the year that keep the children busy. We also do our best to educate the parents as to how they can identify the gang activity within their home. We work with agencies, law enforcement agencies around the county, including the Imperial County Gang Intelligence Coalition, and have recently, been in touch with many of the chiefs, including the new interim chief, Chief Gomez. We've already established an introduction, and we hope to be working together, including Sergeant Legaspi. Had been working with the past chiefs here. So we look forward to working with the city of Calexico, and in hopes that, this proclamation that you guys have read and will be voting on will be the beginning of the prevention efforts, not just here in Calexico, but throughout the county. Other cities have already established it as January 6, 2016, and we're very proud of all of you for taking action on this after we visited your meeting back in December. Are we having problems with?
Mayor, may I stand up? My back hurts. It's okay.
I don't know how you did it. So now from now on, you have to stand up to that there.
turned off.
Not coming?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
could I ask you for a huge favor, since we're waiting? Would you mind reading it so I can record it and
Yes,
document
yeah.
it? Since we're waiting on this, would you mind reading the proclamation so I can record it?
Oh, okay. Then we have to do again then. As a fellow council member with us?
Okay, and then you read the last American
Okay.
part, okay?
So we're gonna present it first, and then we're gonna do again.
Okay, go ahead and, okay. I'll go ahead and start.
Oh, wait, just. The Anti-Gang Awareness Day in January 6, 2016. Whereas the Mothers and Men Against Gangs Coalition, MAG, is an organization formed to provide awareness to combat gang violence throughout the Imperial County and, Mr. Castro?
Whereas MAG was formed in 2013 by the parents of a young man who lost his life due to the gang's violence, and
Whereas MAG brings together parents, youth, community partners, churches, and educators to eradicate gang activities by spreading the message that there is no room for gangs, and
Whereas it is essential to continue to work together to stop gang violence and to encourage involvement in anti-gang prevention programs in order to help reduce the number of gang-related deaths. And whereas anti-gang prevention adds immeasurably to the health and safety of our community and should be encouraged and supported. And whereas the City Council urges our citizens to become aware of anti-gang prevention measures to safeguard our community.
Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Calexico City Council does hereby proclaims January 6, 2016 as Anti-Gang Awareness Day in the city of Calexico, California. In witnesses whereof, I hereunto affix my signature and official seal of the city of Calexico on the 5th day of January 2016. June as Kim Mayor.
thank you guys, and may I say that's a very nice jacket you have on, sir.
Arriba Wildcats. I've never said that before, but I'll say it now.
Yes, and I am also a bulldog because I do work here in Calexico. I did attend SDSU and was the president here from 2001 to 2003. So very proud to be part of Calexico. Are we ready? Okay. MAG, Mothers and Men Against Gangs Coalition, was formed in memory of our son, Martin Alberto. If you can click the link. Oh. I hope it goes through. If not, we can just move on. Okay? If If it doesn't, it's okay, we can move on. Oh, there it goes. Okay. Okay, that's fine. We can move on. That was a picture of our son in his cap and gown. And this is our All-American family. This is what they call us in Brawley, the Garzas, the All-American family, because I'm a teacher, my daughter was a cheerleader, and my son was a football player, and my husband is a peace officer. So it's kind of like that all-American family that we grew up watching on TV and wanting to portray, and mimic in the future. And so kind of like that. But I want to point out something, that if it can happen to the all-American family like ours, it can happen to any family. And that's something that was said many times when this happened to our son, because he was, an all-American kid, loved going to school, really loved, making friends. And so we know that even the innocent lives can be affected by the gang activity. Our mission and our vision is to raise crime victim awareness, increase family and community unity, deter youth and their family from violence by creating change for the betterment of our youth in memory of our son, Martin Alberto Garza. Our vision is to create a nonviolent community, heal victims of violent crimes, assist families to form stronger bonds, nurture community partnerships, gather data to educate the community, and empower everyone with the knowledge and strength and faith to combat violence. Our community must unite to change, and that is one of the foundations, and that is why we asked the cities of the Imperial County and the Imperial County supervisors to have this proclamation as the first step to start making that change. This is our calendar of events. Earlier, I did an interview and they asked, well, what do you do? Well, this is part of our calendar of events. Gangs do not take a day off. They work 365 days, 24/7. Therefore, we as a community can't take a day off, so we have activities throughout the year. One of the first ones is our anniversary peace vigil, which will occur tomorrow as his 3-year death anniversary comes up. And we will be going to the place where it happened on North 7th Street, and we'll be walking with our candles to the courthouse, which is about 4 blocks away, in our journey to justice. And we also do a Smash Row Bear Drive. We collect bears and we give them to the foster youth in the Imperial County because sometimes they don't have a friend. And so that Smash Row Bear, just like our son, is their friend, will be there for them, which has really become a positive entity in the court system with Judge Kwan. He's actually shared that with us, that when the kids receive this bear, they're at ease and they're able to come forth and talk with the officials there. We also are at the point of kicking off our Letterman Jacket program, where we help high school students earn their jacket for free or almost free. We have some organizations that are actually donating jackets now, whereas before the students were actually selling raffle tickets and keeping 80% of their funds. Today, Police Chief Crenshaw vowed to donate 2 Letterman jackets, so we're working with him and his office to start that this coming February. And these Letterman jacket participants, they actually do 43 hours of community service, and their families can help. So if their parents go with them, it doubles. 2 hours turns into 4. But what we're doing is creating a family unity by going back and giving back to the community. This upcoming fair season, we will also have our outreach booth. These are a couple of pictures of the last 2 years. We're going on our 3rd year. And what we do is we share the different activities that we do throughout the year. We talk to the youth that come to us, and we warn them about the dangers of being involved in gangs. And we engage them in other activity and have them vow to not be bullies when they're young, to also stay safe when they go out. And we also talk to the parents while they're there. In April, we honor the Crime Victims' Rights Week. That's a national recognized day, or actually it's a week. And we have a sneaker ball where everyone gets dressed up and puts on sneakers with their dresses and with their nice suits. So I look forward to seeing our city council and our police chief there. 2 years ago, we had all the police chiefs and the sheriffs attended. I think there's a picture to follow where we see all of them. So we hope that we want to do is move on and bring in more educators and more elected officials to start and participating and recognizing those at the sneaker ball that have contributed to either the MAG mission and vision or have already started efforts before we even existed in prevention of gang activity. In May, we have a celebration for our son. Unfortunately, our son did not get to his 18th birthday, therefore, we decided the first year to initiate MAG Games, which is a variety of different tournaments and sports clinics that would reach out to the youth and get them involved and hopefully make interest for them to get involved with all year round. We had Lalaman come in and do a football clinic with them, and this is something that we felt was needed to celebrate his birthday instead of being at home and finding ourselves at a loss. We thought, why not celebrate his birthday by celebrating other kids? And we also do outreach to schools. I work at Enrique Camarena Junior High, and I worked with our administration to bring together several law enforcement agencies and other agencies that wanted to celebrate with us the Red Ribbon Week, because, you know, the school is named in honor of our beloved Enrique Quique Camarena, who is a native of Calexico, in which 30 years ago, you know, was brutally murdered in Mexico when he was working for the DEA. We decided this year, for his 30-year anniversary, to honor him and his family and, you know, initiating a movement to just say no. So our T-shirts and our theme for the whole year is going to be based on the just say no idea. Just say no to drugs, to gangs, to bullying, to the activity that will create an unsafe environment. So that's something I wanted to share since we are in Calexico. It's one of the places where we have done a lot of the outreach. I don't have a picture, but during the summer, I did outreach at Aurora High School with Mr. Moreno. And, you know, I worked, but I also realized that through my work there, I was able to touch some of these students that are at Aurora, because they all have potential. We just have to give them an opportunity. And I was really appreciative of that time that I spent with them. In September, we do the fall kickoff of the Letterman Jacket, and we also recognize a day of remembrance for murdered victims. Before our son was murdered, I didn't realize there was a national day of remembrance for murdered victims. And unfortunately now, that day has become, you know, embedded in our family, in our rituals of the year, to remember him and remember the others that have died because of violence. In November, December, we have softball tournaments for Dia de los Muertos, for Christmas, to collect toys and bears. But one of the big ones, which Mr. Moreno actually said, let's go Brawley here, Wildcats. You all know that Cattle Call is big. It's like Christmas in November in Brawley. We have whole week of celebrations. And the first year I thought about our son, and he loved being in the Cattle Call parade because he was part of the football team, so they get a big trailer, the haystacks, and they get on top. And I remember his senior year telling us that this was going to be his last parade. He was a senior. He wasn't going to be able to get on there the next year. And, you know, God had a different plan. And next year, we, as a Mothers and Men Against Gangs Coalition, put in our application to become part of the parade, and with a big sign that said Mothers and Men Against Gangs Coalition, we walked down Main Street letting our community know that we will make sure that our streets are safe, that our kids are finding, opportunities and activities that are better than the gang activity that exists. And I didn't realize how much of a statement that was, but it felt really good to know that we had the support in our community. And now this is our third year that we participated. And we hope that, we gain support by participating in different parades. We hope next year we'll be part of the Calexico Christmas Parade. Kind of missed the deadline this year. So the reason that I'm here is because we want all city councils, school districts, and organizations to partner up with us. We need to do more about the prevention of violence. I know that, the police departments and the different agents, law enforcement agencies, do their job, but it's because it's after the fact. The crime has already been committed. Victims have already been affected. What we want to do is partner up with these city councils to do the prevention. If we can prevent a life from being lost to violence, then we have, saved a life, and that's something that we hope we will do every year. We want to take a proactive approach to youth by getting involved with organizations like ours, volunteer at family events geared towards the prevention, create more activities for older youth. This is something we've been talking with the city councils is we have different things at the recreation level for the little kids, but there's a big gap in the teenagers and even those that graduate from high school where if they don't have a job because of our unemployment rate here in the county, then they're walking the streets and they are causing, problems. So we need to find programs that we can engage them in, as older youth. I know that's something that we haven't started to look at, but we need to start looking at these older youth and finding something for them to do, because or else we're going to find more crime from those younger kids. We also need to engage youth and their parents in the gang affiliation educational workshops. Many of the law enforcement agencies that we have partnered up with do a lot of these workshops, but the reason we are there is because we want to give these families a first account of how the gang activity that they're involved in affects someone like us. And so that's where we feel like we can become, informed. We need to do more. Okay, thank you. The next one. These are some of the current partners that we have. CASA, which is the court-appointed special advocates in El Centro that actually serve the Imperial County, and Imperial Valley College student government, Jose 94.3, and Entrevisión, Del Taco, Anocotillo, and IVC. We have formed a relationship with Dr. Jaime and his staff. They were actually the first to initiate a resolution recognizing the work of MAG Coalition. That happened last year in April, and I knew that was going to be the first step towards where we're at now with the proclamation. One of our big coalition partners is the Imperial County Gang Coalition, which is made up of all the agencies in the valley at the state and federal level, as well as the city. I'm not sure if we have representatives going from Calexico or not. I think that that's something that we can look at. So our question is, why should you be involved with MAG Coalition? Because you want your children, the grandchildren, your students, the constituents to celebrate many more years of life, such as the baby years. You want to click? Okay. That's our son when he was a kid. The toddler years where they're little terrible twos and they're all over the place. To enjoy the family parties, and actually the picture that is being shown right now is of my sister at her birthday, and today's her birthday. And, when I thought about the presentation we were doing today, I thought how ironic that we're going to show something that I know he's missing out on today, celebrating her birthday. But also the milestone birthdays such as Sweet 16s. My daughter had her quinceañera, which is, like a Mexican tradition. Well, my son was like, I want a Sweet 16, and I couldn't believe it, but we did it. And he enjoyed himself, and he was ready for his 18th birthday. And this year May 5th would have been his 21st birthday. Graduations. I know that we have a family graduation picture, but that picture was actually taken December 17th, 2012, because I made sure that we had a picture from a professional. So we made an appointment, and Palm Desert drove out there, and we all got decked out for this family portrait, which now hangs over our mantle in our living room. I'm very glad, but we did not get to see him receive his diploma. The weddings, lately we've seen many of our nephews and his friends, get married. And when I see the mother and son dance, it's a reality check for me that I'm not going to have that experience with my son. But I'm really happy that he actually came out in a lot of quinceañeras, so I have something similar there. But we want your families, your constituents, to enjoy these things. The birth of their children. And just in this year, 3 of his cousins gave birth to kids. And I think about the grandchildren that I'm not going to have because he's no longer here. And you definitely don't want to have the last birthday to be that 17th birthday. That was the last birthday my son celebrated. That was the 4 of us. And for those of you that may have known our family for years, you know that bond that we created was unlike others. And even though he's gone, we still have that bond, and that's why MAG Coalition exists. So why should you assist MAG Coalition? Because you do not want to have to attend another funeral for a young man like our son, Martin Alberto Garza. It's his casket. You don't want to see his teammates have to carry his casket onto a football field where he played on a Friday night light. And you don't want to have an empty chair at graduation. And you don't want to have to go to a community candlelight vigil because of this tragedy that affected everyone in the county. It wasn't a Brawley thing. It was an Imperial County thing. Everybody came together and was there for us. So therefore, when we created MAG Coalition, we didn't think of just Brawley. And I know that I wear our colors, but that's because that was how we founded our organization. We made sure that our organization was going to affect everyone in the valley because everyone in the valley came together for us. And so this is our way of giving back. So how can you support MAG Coalition? By inviting us to do a presentation like today. And perhaps today it's here at the City Council, but invite us to your organization meetings. Inviting us to give a presentation to others would definitely expand our mission. We want to build a formal partnership with MAG Coalition and have your logo be part of it. We're going to promote events within your professional social circles. Some of you are businessmen. If you have a circle of businesses and colleagues, invite us to meet with them and tell our story so that way we can be able to expand our efforts. You can also assist us in fundraising. I know that we submitted a sponsorship packet, and perhaps in the future we will be able to work on something. But you can also co-host an event with us or gather support in your community to change. So today I ask that you make a motion to take action on this proclamation that you have read, and I'm not sure if the action is pending, but I know that this will be the beginning of the prevention efforts in your community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Garza.
So this is the calendar of our events. If you would like to join us throughout the year. This Saturday, we have our memorial run. Tomorrow's the candlelight vigil. So we would appreciate if you guys would be present either tomorrow or Saturday.
Where is that again?
Tomorrow, we will be in El Centro at 273 North 7th Street. At 4:55, we will begin the candlelight peace vigil walk.
273 North 7th Street, in El Centro,
North 7th
right?
Street. And we will be walking 4 blocks, rain or shine, to the courthouse. At the courthouse, we will have a short ceremony where the mayor, Jason Jackson of El Centro, will be reading the last proclamation for the cities of the county. And I believe Senator Ben Wessel's office will also be there to present the proclamation. And then we will have Rosca, because that was his favorite holiday. And, you know, I don't think it's a mistake or just by chance that he passes on the wise men, Dia de los Reyes Magos, because I believe he's bringing a gift as a result of his death to all of us. So join us tomorrow. And Saturday, it'll be at IVC, and registration starts at 6, and the run and walk will start at 7:03.
Thank you, Ms. Garza.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if council member doesn't have any comment, we're gonna go number 9.
I'd just like to say that I want to thank you for everything you do, and for your courage and bravery, and I do understand how gangs affect our youth. I know Mr. Moreno also knows, and I'm glad that there's somebody doing something about it. I actually help out at a nonprofit boxing gym for kids, for youth in Calexico. It's and so whatever we can help out as far as maybe doing some. I helped out getting it open for the same reason, to try and get kids away from, they want to fight somewhere they can fight doing boxing, not out in the street. And it's called Calexico Boxing Academy, and we have a few kids there that I know are involved in gangs. And so maybe you guys can go there and help as well and talk to them, because, they, I know they're there. And so I just want to thank you guys again. God bless you.
Thank you. I would like to open an invitation
Sure.
to have a booth or set up something.
I will try and go to, be there tomorrow, and maybe we can talk about it there, and help with the walk. I don't know about the run though, but I could. I promise to walk. I don't know about run. But.
You can walk. Just 7 times around the track.
Just know that your work is something that is very unique here in the valley, and I applaud your efforts. And I know the council is very, very happy that this is something that people can turn to, that people can look at and say, you know what, we're changing a negative into a positive. So God bless you, and I hope we'll see you at some of these events. I mean, I hope you'll see me at some of these events.
And I actually look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
It really touched me this one.
Thank you.
God bless
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna have a number 9. Second reading and the adoption of the ordinance number 1166.
Motion to approve.
Of the City Council of the City of Calexico repealing ordinance number 1144 and amending section 2.02.110 and chapter 2.07 of the Calexico Municipal City Code regarding the appointment process and the duties of the city clerk.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Real, motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Castro.
Aye.
If anybody to discuss, we're going to vote.
Aye.
Aye.
I think I voted no on this, right? I voted no last time?
Yeah,
Okay,
yes.
no.
Okay, so 3-2-1.
We were on a roll,
We
buddy.
passed.
We were on a roll.
Okay, number 10, before we start in number 10, I believe we have a SCAG staff, Mr. Thomas Olivas. Would you give
Oliva.
us a little?
Tomás Oliva.
Thomas Oliva, would you give us a little update on the SCAG?
Well, Mr. Mayor, actually, I'm here to let you...
Other microphone.
This one? Oh. I'm actually here to let you know that I no longer work for SCAG.
Oh,
And
sorry.
as of December 31st, I'm actually here to formally reintroduce myself to the Calexico City Council. I am now working for Congressman Juan Vargas, and so I will be his face, his voice, on his behalf, but to essentially serve the community of Imperial County. And as being a border town in the city of Calexico, I also wanted to let the citizens know that the office is open, running, fully staffed. I'm a native here of Imperial County, so I'm very aware of the issues that we face here in Imperial County. And so if there's anything that I can do for the city of Calexico, please feel free to contact me and let you know that you have a friend at the office.
Actually, there's a lot of things you can do to help out
Yes,
Calexico, and I'll send you the list via email.
I would like to remind the council that I am human. I don't, I don't have any magic spells, but I will be here to help as much as possible.
What's the address of the actual, where you guys are at now, the actual office? It's no longer at the airport, correct?
Tough questions, huh? No, I'm just kidding. Today's day 2 for me. So it is on the corner of Park and 8th Street in the city of El Centro.
There's 7-Eleven there, isn't it?
Right behind it.
Okay.
So very near the
The old
pavilion
Ivy
in the
Press,
city of
by
El
the
Centro.
Ivy Press,
In
just
front of the Ivy Press, actually,
north
right?
of the Ivy Press.
Mr. Oliva.
No, that's another area.
I have some question,
You have a question, sir?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
because you like to help us to the city of Calexico.
Always have been.
Yeah.
Even in my previous.
Why all the represent service or represent people, the office in the Central, why not in Calexico?
Boom.
It's the county seat.
Boom.
No, I can the only thing I can say is that when a new member gets elected, they inherit the previous office. And so that office was held by the previous congressional member, and so that's why we're there. So when the time comes, and if need be, that we start entertaining the idea of looking for new property or real estate to house our office, then we can entertain that
Thank you.
conversation.
Be
Plus the rent's
considered.
cheaper.
Yeah.
No, sir.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you
Olivas.
very much.
Thank you. Welcome to come back to here. Thank you. Okay, number 10, introduce and waive first reading of the ordinance of the City Council of the City of Calexico amending Chapter 5.96 and 17.11, prohibiting medical cannabis dispensaries, medical cannabis cultivations, and medical cannabis delivery in the city. Mr. Who needs to explain? Mr. Bob, Mr. Agree?
Mr. Mayor, this ordinance is in response to some recent legislation at the state level regarding the regulation of the cultivation and distribution of marijuana. The state government anticipates that in November, on the next general election, there's going to be propositions that will further legalize the use and cultivation of marijuana. So the state's getting into place regulatory frameworks right now so that when those propositions pass, people will be prepared to deal with the different issues that come up. And one of the, I think, unforeseen aspects of the legislative package was that it was worded in such a way that the cities need to act right now to get their own regulation into effect, or there's a chance that on March 1st they'll be preempted by what the state does. So what we have proposed here is a standard package that prohibits the cultivation, distribution, and transportation of marijuana within the city of Calexico. It's kind of an all-inclusive ban at this point, and it really reserves the city's position to go ahead and maybe potentially regulate in a more nuanced manner going forward, depending on what the city wants to do, but at least this way we get in place the ban so that, going forward, if we want to, be more flexible, we can do that later on, but at least we've kind of got our position stated up front now. So that's the goal of this particular.
My
ordinance.
question is, why is the city doing this if this is more of a state, state's jurisdiction? Now, if it's on the ballot for November for maybe recreational use or other things that are coming, and that was to pass, or for example, somebody is sick in the city of Calexico and has a medical card, I guess what we're saying here is the city is going to overrule someone that has a medical marijuana card and they're not allowed to have marijuana in the city of Calexico?
No,
How can the city of Calexico overrule the state?
Well, the previous proposition allowed medical marijuana, and the city cannot overrule that. I mean, people within the city, that have valid prescriptions and valid cards are still going to be able to use marijuana without, legal ramifications here within the city. What this particular ordinance is set up to do is to, ban basically the commercialization of marijuana within the city.
Because my understanding is the people that have a medical marijuana card can actually cultivate their own marijuana. So we would be banning cultivation, and people that have marijuana cards or whatever, they're allowed to cultivate by the state.
Well, they're allowed to use marijuana. They're not necessarily allowed to cultivate it in their own backyards. I mean, the city can regulate that. There is case law that says that the cities can regulate the cultivation, either by individuals or by collectives or by, commercial operations. And there again, this is kind of an all-inclusive ban. As the city goes forward, it can be more permissive, and certainly, personal cultivation for personal use.
I guess what I'm asking here is, if because this is something, this is pretty much, I guess my question is, if the state puts it on the ballot and it passes recreationally, because we have this ban, people won't be, even if it passes at the state recreationally, we won't be able to have businesses cultivate or sell marijuana in the city. Is that what this is?
That's what this provides, yes.
So we would, okay, and,
Let me ask, the proposal is to decriminalize it on the ballot? Is that what you're saying?
there will be I believe there will be a ballot to have it recreational.
But decriminalized.
That's the anticipation, is that in the
Correct.
November ballot,
Okay.
there will be measures to decriminalize as they're.
So what this
currently
is
in
here,
Colorado.
is, and I just flew in from Colorado yesterday. And I guess what this is even if it passes recreationally, it still blocks it from happening in the city.
Yes,
So-
we'll be blocking all the drug activity in the city. That's
Well, that's if marijuana is a drug by November.
yes, but the thing is, if you don't like it, probably, for example, if we pass today, maybe if you don't like it, you can help some other people like you to support to do the marijuana, they change the ordinance.
But didn't we already vote on this?
There was
Yes,
a
we have to-
moratorium, I think, a couple of years ago
and-
to prohibit any
Yes.
type of transportation, cultivation, or
Yes.
sales.
The same ones, but when we did this one today, we're gonna have keep our right to make the decision.
Right,
to-
yeah.
If not, then by the March, if we don't do anything right now, the state take over the power to what to do, not to do.
The consideration.
So you want the power?
Not the power, we want to
The power.
have the
Okay.
decision as ourselves.
Do you know what
Let's get
the stance is in El Centro or the county, Mr. City Manager? Are they looking to also prohibit or allow?
I think basically it's been a 50-50. I think the city of El Centro is allowing it. However, I think
Of
there's
course
other
they are.
cities, there's other cities that don't, so I'm not too sure what the stance are, but there's a difference.
Are they allowing it because of the revenue in sales tax perhaps, or I've read that this is considered a cash crop, more than, all the agriculture put together.
What I'm understanding, they allowed it, but now they're trying to put back to the banning again. That's what I heard.
Well, hearing is one thing. I support, personally support this, this ban. I have no problem with supporting that. I'm not for, this happening, the marijuana thing, the whatever, growing it or whatever in the city. But what I don't want to do is have it pass at a state level and the city miss the revenue. If that happens, why will Central and other cities, again, profit from this cash crop, it possibly passing, and we're going to sit by the sidelines again, just because you want the power.
No, that's what I'm saying. If you don't like it, later on, you can change it back to
Okay, well, why
allowed
don't,
it.
well, let's,
But the thing is, so
I will support this up to the next election, and then if we can revisit it at that time, that would
Analyze the-
analyze if it passed, then go from there.
And actually, we can revisit it even before then, but we need to have something in place by March 1st. And so this is kind of the, and cities all over the state are doing this. This is kind of, comes out of the League of Cities. This is the general recommendation. There are cities that have gone forward, gone through a process to regulate, for instance, the cultivation with the anticipation of revenue generation, and that's going to be open, continue to be open to the city as we go forward. But
So for example, I'll give you an example. If this happens in November, this is on the ballot and it happens to pass, right? Let's just say it passes. Other cities that haven't regulated this will be ready to cultivate and start producing tax money and jobs and everything for the city. But if we do this, then there would be a hold on all that, correct? Until it comes back to council.
right, well, there'll be a hold on it until it comes back to council, and that can be next month, or that can be, and there are cities right now that are authorizing the cultivation for medical marijuana, so they're not waiting for November, they're already.
They're doing it already.
They're already setting it up.
Yeah, exactly.
Their grow operations are going through the process, they're being permitted.
In anticipation that it's going to pass.
Right.
More likely.
And the other aspect is, in order to have revenue out of this, you have to have a voter approval for the revenue measure. So you have to go to the voters, and that's something to, work through with it.
So it would take, in other words, if we did this, it would put it would take more time for the city to get on board with it. If other cities are already ready for it, then they just kind of jump on it as soon as it passes. We would have to actually take it to the voters,
Right, and that's something.
which would give us another year.
Well, we could actually, between now and then, consider going to the voters for voter approval of, a revenue source, a tax.
So
some of our
So
cities
we
are
would
doing
have
that.
to maybe put it on the ballot for November at the same time?
Right, or we could put it on in, June for the primaries.
For June.
I mean, if you wanted to start,
Okay.
I would suggest, if this is something that the city's amenable to, that you set up a, working group to study these issues, and we can come back at a later date with.
I just think,
more
I just think it's common sense. I think it's common sense and, whether people are for or against marijuana, I think it's common sense that the city not handicap itself in case, it does pass, and other cities in the valley will benefit from the tax revenue, and we'll just sit on the sidelines. I think that, if it doesn't pass, it doesn't pass, and we continue to have this, this thing banning marijuana for every reason. But if it passes, why not be ready for the city to, have revenue? And so that's where I'm at. I don't know if.
Well, as money is not all over our life. So we have to keep our community in the safe for our children's future.
Once again, I'm not. Once again,
you are supporting the gang activities and those drugs and their involvements. You're supporting them now. You wanna not to support.
You're putting words in my mouth.
Free to the people because of money.
You're putting words in my mouth. I'm not supporting.
Decriminalizing marijuana will put gangs out of business.
But if it passes, the city should be ready create revenue from this, if it passes. Because if it passes, it's going to pass. The person that wants to buy marijuana in the city of Calexico is going to have to go to El Centro and purchase marijuana, because guess what? Calexico doesn't want to, go. If it passes at the state law, that's state law. It supersedes city law. It's that simple. So anyways, that's where I'm at. I don't know.
Well, again, the money is not all of for the portion of the life. The quality of the life is very
Money's
important
nothing.
too.
Money's nothing.
I make a motion that we approve the prohibition of medical cannabis dispensaries, cultivation, and delivery in the city.
Do I have second? Motion made the motion by the Mr. Moreno.
I would like to put okay, we can.
Mr. Castro, second.
What was the motion? Sorry, I didn't get it.
Motion is to approve it as it's written.
As
Okay.
it's written.
Yeah.
Okay, motion to approve.
So you seconded.
I'm second to approve this.
I would like to
Item
put,
11.
I would like to ask the city attorney, so can we put a date to re-see this, or like right now? Or in other words, can we put an ending date on this ordinance here? Could we say, for example, this will be in effect, if we vote for it now, till November 3rd of next year?
I would suggest that
Or when
What-
can
what
we,
you
when can we
do-
review it again?
is to, if that's what you want to do, appoint a subcommittee right now and to start studying the thing. Because if you put a sunset on this and don't do any other action, then it goes away in November, and there you are, you're left
Okay.
essentially bare. But I would suggest that, if that's the direction you want to go, to set up a committee right now to start studying and get something in place before November and go to the voters for a revenue
Setting up the
measure.
committee could happen now or a closed session?
No, it could happen right now.
All right.
I mean,
I will support this, as it's written right now, if we can get a subcommittee to go ahead and do that.
No, we already have a second, so we just have it at both times. So we have a
Okay.
votings. Shall I vote?
Unless someone wants to rescind
Yes.
their motion?
We need to read the title? Could you read the title?
So we already read the title. Number 10, we already read the title.
No, I just motioned for its approval.
Yeah, as a second by the Mr. Castro, we have a voting time. I said that yes.
Introduce and waive first reading of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Calexico amending chapters 5.96 and 17.11 prohibiting medical cannabis dispensaries, medical cannabis cultivation, and medical cannabis delivery in the city.
I already read it.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
All right. Just in case Ms. Garcia didn't get it.
Okay, I said yes. The voting time.
Aye.
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 4-0. We passed. Number 11, authorize the city manager to process the required documentation that will allow the short sale of the property on condition the city receives a payoff in an amount to be determined.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve, okay. Second by, motion by the
Aye.
Mr. Real, second by the Mr. Moreno, I'm sorry. I keep doing it.
Okay, Mr.
Sorry.
Jung.
Okay, time to vote?
Aye.
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 Mr. Real,
Aye.
thank you. The
Aye, aye,
4-0. Okay, number 12. Authorize the acting city manager to file notice of the completion for street improvement project as part.
So moved.
Robert composed layer overlay.
Second.
On this designated streets 2015.
Aye.
Do I have a motion?
Aye.
Do I have a
Aye.
motion?
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Moreno made the motion.
Second.
Second by Mr. Real. Have a vote?
Aye.
Aye.
I would like, Mr. Romo wants,
Mr. Real?
aye.
Aye.
Mr.
Thank you.
Romo,
Okay, and the future agenda items.
I don't really have agenda items. I just think
Okay.
that there's a few things that we've talked in the past. I know that some information on some change orders that I would like to, know if we can get maybe some information on, I think, the water, what is it, the water plumbing, the water meter stuff, and some information on where we're at with the hiring of the attorney firm and the search for the city manager and all those things as well.
Okay, Mr. Real, thank you, Mr. Real. Mr. Moreno? Sorry, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, Mr. Moreno.
That was my grandmother's last name, Romero. That's okay.
The,
No, nothing from me, sir.
okay, Mr. Castro?
Supporting the future agenda related to the water issue, what Manny mentioned.
So do we gonna bring the, Mr. Finley, do we gonna have a report on that? Yes. Okay, thank you. Okay, a future agenda, I'm gonna put the requesting state controllers audit our city at the next meeting. Thank you. Requesting state controllers audit under our cities. Yeah. Thank you. If you don't have anybody, we adjourn the meeting 8:40.